My first encounter with student protests. In 1974, I was interviewed on the Canadian television, Educational Channel 19. The question put to me was whether or not the day-to-day life of the Rostov family that we had just seen in one of the installments of the British TV series War and Peace was still similar to my own childhood recollections. The same question was put to George Ignatieff, the Provost of Trinity College at the University of Toronto, where I was a graduate student at the time. George, the father of Michael Ignatieff, the future leader of the Liberal Party of Canada, and the son of Count Pavel Ignatieff and Princess Natalia Meshcherskaya. The Meshcherskis were the third richest family in the old Russia after the Romanovs and the Tischchenko. Replied in the affirmative, but added that his father, unlike the old Count Rostov, was a tolstovets and would never go hunting. For my part, I had to admit that my childhood was rather different in lifestyle. Before the two of us were live on the television, we were thoroughly made up. So thoroughly that we had at least 1 hour for a chat, seated in parallel chairs in front of a big mirror. That was when I learned about the glorious family history of our provost. The most important subject touched upon during our chat was the recent student disturbances at the U of T, when a guest speaker, Professor Edward Banfield, was prevented from delivering his lecture. Later I learned that the hysterical Banfield movement had well-organized histrionics, complete with now all too familiar comparisons with Hitler. At that time, I thought this was an initiative of local hoodlums. I do not know whether Ignatieff was as naive as I was, but he was a diplomat, of course. We did not discuss the presumed content of the undelivered lecture, but agreed entirely that however controversial it would have been, free speech trumped all other considerations. But then I pressed my point that these protesters, die Sturmabteilung, as I called them, were the greatest threat to my liberty and demanded punishment for the instigators. He chaired an investigating committee. What kind of punishment? He inquired. Expulsion from the university, I persisted. He suddenly dropped his diplomatic detachment. I completely agree with you, young man. But this is the problem your generation will have to handle. Needless to say, we did not handle it well. I wonder what Ignatieff's son Michael would say. He is quintessentially my generation, so much so that we were even born in the same year. I guess as a cultured man with knowledge of history, he must be on the right side, privately. But only privately. I never saw his party standing up to protesting hoodlums. Well, our generation failed and is no longer relevant. But I am not optimistic about the next generation either.